and share this screen. And okay, I can make it bigger. And I can make this picture a bit bigger. So I'm going to keep it like that so that you can see me talking. Otherwise, I disappeared the last time I started talking and it was just the voice coming through. Okay, welcome all. We're going to be talking about China again, and in particular about the 5G. I've talked about both China and 5G before. 5G as a sort of a general technology that all of us are sort of expecting to be coming our way. But there has been some political sort of ramifications because the company that was going to bring that 5G was a Chinese company, Huawei. And of course, they have been blocked in USA from selling the technology on the basis that it's a security concern because Huawei has links to the Chinese government, and the thinking is that if data is going to be retained in some way by Huawei, they are going to be able to give it to the Chinese government. Of course, Huawei denies that. But then if you look at any technology, if you look at even Google and Apple and all these companies, they do the same thing. They keep a lot of data about people. So it is really a political sort of war, if you like, that has been conducted using technology as the excuse. Anyhow, today's topic, I want to again focus on China because China repeatedly gets a very bad press here. And because of that, we are not really seeing what is happening in the country, how far ahead it's going. And I'm beginning to feel that this is a situation that is coming through, which reminds me of when I was in India, because I grew up there, and you looked at the Western world as having a lot of, not only good institutions, but technologies as well. And one considered bringing those technologies into India so as to make progress. Now I feel that I get the feeling now that UK and USA and Europe even are now the old India looking at China. China's got the basic technology which we have to bring in order to go ahead. So that's the feeling that I have got now. So let's move on and see what we're going to cover today. We're going to ask the question, what is 5G? I think a lot of you heard the expression 5G, that's fifth generation, 5G stands for. Because the current way that we are communicating with on our mobile sets and so on is using 4G. Before that we had 3G, and before that 2. Before that we had telephone lines, basically, landlines. So what we have is a technology that I'll talk about very quickly as to what really it is and what is hoping to deliver. And of course, this large area of applications. Now, why do we want to go to 5G? The question is, of course, it opens up a lot of new, if you like, applications that we can use it for. We have, when the smartphones came in, we just had the old telephone, you remember, and we used to remember all the telephone numbers and so on. And then once the smartphones came in, we started to do all sorts of things with it. We could even sort of talk to each other, see each other, and don't have to remember the telephone numbers for a change. You just press the button and you got it. So there are lots of new applications that came along with the new technology. And so it is with 5G as well. We don't know about it so much because we haven't really heard too much about how it can be used. And that's one of the things I'm going to be talking about today. And then, of course, the general thing about China going places. I'll show you some things on that. And of course, security threat, which is the usual sort of thing that we hear about. Okay, 5G. So we are talking about 5G as being a generation of mobile data that will revolutionize society again. As our smartphones using 3G and 4G have done, 5G is also going to be doing it uh, by bringing in these new products. And what are these things and how does it work? So let's see. So 5G is the next generation of mobile broadband that will eventually replace or at least augment your 4G connection. Now, 4G is the one that gave us, access on our smartphones to internet and video sort of sharing and viewing and so on. So that was a big step forward from the old 2 and 3Gs. So we had connectivity through 4G or through internet. So with 5G, you'll be seeing an exponentially faster download and upload of speeds. So it means that 5G is going to give us a humongously faster way of communicating. And of course, then there is the latency. Latency means the delay that can be incurred because of having to send signals long distances and so on. And I spoke about it when I spoke to you about Starlink, you remember? The Elon Musk project where he's going to have a lot of hundreds of satellites, in orbit around the Earth, and they're going to be cutting down on the latency, meaning that the current satellites that we have, which are called geocentric, they're very high up, and it takes quite a while for this signal to go and come back. That's why, when you see on TV, people, when they're asked a question, they just look at you for a little while, and then they start to answer it. Now, that's latency, basically. So latency is something, again, which is going to be on 5G very, very sort of small, even for small distances that we have. So that's what that is. Yeah, basically, this is showing that 4G is about 100 times faster than 5G. So the speeds are going to be quite enormous. So yeah, how does it work? Now, it has these cellular networks, 5G networks. They're called cell sites. And these cell sites are linked up through some sort of way of either through radio waves or cable or whatever, so that they're all providing a network type of feature. So here you're saying each cell must be connected to a network backbone, whether through a wired or wireless backbone. So essentially, again, it's a sort of localized equipment being kept in a lot of places all over the city, which are interconnected, which will then sort of give you this very, very fast connectivity and speeds. So what will it do? So it's low latency, which means instant responses, and high capacity means you can shove in a lot of data through the pipes, and it helps to create smart spaces through enhanced video surveillance and analytics. So essentially, the data that you're going to be shifting from one place to another can be enormous amounts of data. And because 5G has the capacity to do that, we are able to do that. At the moment, you can't. And the other point is, don't forget that latency is the one that's also very important, because we can move lots of data from one place to another. But if there is a delay, then it's not much use for certain types of applications. And we'll go and see some of those applications. One that comes to mind straight away is driverless cars, for instance. They need to have instant type of responses to be able to communicate with what they're seeing and being able to react. And then there is these wireless cameras mounted on drones, hard to reach places, will improve safety and security. All this decision making can be enhanced by looking at data that is captured wherever the capturing sensor is, and being able to take decisions on that data very quickly. Now, I want to explain what is meant by exponential. Exponential is a term that you might have come across. It's a way where things become much bigger as the time goes by, bigger in the sense of larger capacity. Uh, I remember a case, this here, this is a diagram here showing a pond of lilies here. Now this pond reaches the full capacity on day 29 of the 30 days. On day 29, it's half full, and day 30, it's full. So for the previous few days, it's very small in terms. So what is meant by that is the doubling, if you like 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64. You know, as you keep on going in stages like that of doubling, the numbers become much larger. So that's really an exponential type of idea. That's the thing that is being used to look at what the impact of technology is going to be doing as technology comes into play. So we've got it accelerating other technologies as well, and together they become an exponential type of growth. And what are these things? We can look at those. Like right now, we're seeing cheaper and faster, smaller computing power and so on. So this is also sort of growing very rapidly. You know, Moore's law, I might have mentioned it some time back, where the storage capacity was going to be doubling every year for the same cost and so on. So there is that hardware sort of capacity that's there, which can be exponentially growing. Then you've got this other software type of intelligence, artificial intelligence, development, quantum. Now, these technologies also, when they're coming together with this faster and faster capacity with hardware, they are going to also accelerate in their sort of performance and new sort of innovation. And some of those applications in these types of areas are these. You've got robotics. Now, these nanites, these are nanotechnologies, actually. You know, these are technologies that are so small that they are the size of a few molecules. So you can't barely see them. You can have them injected in your body and so on. And they're like little machines that can go and do some work, a specific task. So these are very nano. So it's a thousandth of a sort of a millionth of a millimeter. That's how big they are. These sensors are coming in into all sorts of machines now. We've got 3D printing that tells you essentially how to create an object from the program that that you can give it to. That 3D printing, churns out even biological type of entities. Sooner or later, we will have 3D printing of creating maybe even a bone or some part for the body. So these are also moving that way. And of course, computer vision. Then you've got these things, these terms called augmented and virtual and mixed reality, spatial computing. Now, these are types of technologies which enable us to enhance the world around us with digital sort of enhancement of it. For example, one example is that supposing you want to go and plant a plant into your garden, and for the whole year you want to be able to see which is the good place for it to be planted, how much sun will it get, how much water. So that additional data can be put in with reference to your garden and that particular spot. So that's a really simple example of using augmented reality. And then you've got this mixed reality, which is, again, one of those similar things. Virtual reality is really something that what we can see is, if you put out these, artificial binoculars type of thing, it lets you immerse yourself into an environment which is digital, and you have the feeling that you're there. So that is the application of virtual reality. You could, in fact, sit down and say, well, I want to go on a holiday to Greece. and then somebody's offering these, virtual reality types of experiences. You can go there and have the feeling of being there, because all around it, you're immersed in that environment. Although it's a digital environment, you are able to sort of see the sea and the sand and so on and so forth. And how real it becomes is all this area over here. Then, of course, we've heard about genetic engineering. This is how you take a DNA and cut bits of it which are unwanted, remove it, and then put something in place which is better. So you cure the diseases that way. So that's sort of genetic engineering. Synthetic biology, that's where we are going to be creating all sorts of cells and become part of the body. The machines can be part of of human beings. And here are the networks. Here we are talking about 5G, and they are the means of communication in the future as to how we're going to be communicating, not just between ourselves, but with machines and with all sorts of other things that transfer lots and lots of data from one to another. So now we can see that China is so far ahead that this fellow, this is a professor, Roger Spitz, he's talking about by 2025, China is really pulling ahead, and it has these types of, what I would call unintended consequences. Because the moment you keep China out of the whole game, what that has meant is that they have started to have their own supply chains, which are quite independent, not dependent on too many people. And therefore, they are becoming much more independent and less reliant on the world technology and their advances. And it has pushed them into an area which means that they are becoming more and more self-sufficient and capable. Like even that space station I mentioned to you, we have an international space station. China was kept out of it, and now they're thinking of putting up their own station. So they're developing technologies being outside of the global framework in a lot of spheres, and they're building self-sufficiently to a very, very large extent. Of course, we know about this digital road, the digital Silk Road, the Belt and Road Initiative, the new Silk Road, as it were. I keep talking about that quite a lot. That's the infrastructure that connects China to the rest of the world physically, in terms of highways and rail links and ports and airports, power stations, whatever it is that infrastructure is about, they are providing that, and they are doing it in a big way. And that is something that I've talked about before. Now, in terms of patents, now they are closing the gap. So they are surging ahead in terms of new ideas and new sort of technologies coming in. And they have brought in this AI national competitiveness, so they're going ahead very quickly. Now, one of the things that is helping them, I suppose you could say help in some safeguards, is that being a one-party country, in our words, sort of a dictatorship, I suppose, but they don't say it's a dictatorship. It's a sort of type of government which is representative and therefore is fulfilling the needs of their country, which is to deliver economic well-being, and which they have done in an astoundingly sort of big way. So that's so much so that China, when you see clips of Chinese cities and all that, you see a lot of people you don't see much poverty, as you would see in India, for instance. India has loads and loads of poverty, whereas China doesn't, because they have undertaken projects which has lifted 700 to 800 million people out of poverty. So anyhow, they have achieved a lot, and they're also into the quantum race. The quantum, I told you, I think I gave a talk on this quantum computers and so on. These are computers which are at the level of atomic level, which have immense type of computing power for specific type of applications, not for all. And they're sort of also creating computers of that sort. And of course, they've got these warfare, these sentient. Sentient means basically machines that respond to audio, visual, or emotional type of stimulus or inputs. So they're using those as well in machines, and they're using all these other things to become quite powerful. In fact, one of the things I heard lately is that there has been some problem with the islands of the Chinese coast in the China Sea. They're building islands there and making those islands, they're secure. And when USA was trying to sort of fly over, they disabled their flying machines totally. So they've got the technology to do all sorts of things like that. So they're making so basically, we have to rethink our strategy towards China, because on one side, if you don't sort of include China, it's still going to make progress. And if we do include China, then there may be a possibility that we can, in fact, all work together. Okay, the recent sort of Beijing Expo took place. There are again 5 technology we're talking about. The average download speed was 700 MB. That's quite high. The best that I can get with my fiber optic type of cable is about 70 MB. That's about 10 times less. So these sort of things, and this is for lots of people in that expo, so they can see the huge capacity. So now Huawei is one of those companies that is well ahead in 5G, and it's also trying to include a lot of that network in China. So much so the surgeons in South China, guys who successfully conducted a cardiac endoscopy surgery. So what that actually means is that if you don't have an expert locally, but he's sitting there a few hundred kilometers away, he can connect to the operation theater and be able to see what is happening in the machines around the patient and those people over there, and be actually able to carry out some sort of instructions that will help the surgery. So it's a distant surgery type of facility, which is possible because the 5G enables the readings on all these machines near the patient to instantly give him the information. So there's no time lag, and therefore the surgeon's response doesn't also have a time lag. So you're dealing in real time practically. Yeah, that's the operation that is being conducted here. This looks to me like some sort of robotic hand machine that is doing it. With the help of experts 400 kilometers away, so 5G network supported by Huawei. Now, basically, this is saying that why China can race ahead in the digital economy. Well, because they've got humongous amount of money that is being spent. This year is a figure of 125 billion on all these areas: management, networks, security, storage, and all that. But the impact of that expenditure investment it runs into several trillion. Now, all the areas that are going to be affected are this manufacturing, agriculture, healthcare, and I'll give you examples of that as we go along. See, the digital economy of China, you can see the amount of increases that are from 2016, in the last couple of years even, got quite a lot. Scale of China's digital economy reached 4.3 trillion US dollars. So, in fact, the UK's total economy is about 4 trillion dollars. And here we're talking about China's, just the digital economy is about that. and their total GDP is something of the order of about 12 or 13 or 14. They're about, about 60% of USA. So how many internet users have they got? They've got 854. So internet penetration, about 61% of the population has access to internet, which is quite, quite big. Now, what are they using? This is another use of 5G. You've got travel in China. They've got these, driverless cars. We hear about them because, I've talked about it, Elon Musk and his autonomous self-drive cars. He's coming out with, already there, but they're not as extensively used. In China, they're also going quite fast in that direction without any drivers driving the cars. They've also got these little robotic type of machines to sweep the streets. There is one. It just goes around doing its business. I think you might have seen some of these vacuum or cleaners, and even grass cutters. I know I saw one in Geneva when I was there last in Switzerland. This round little machine was just going everywhere, and nobody took note of it. It just cut and then it did its work, going from one place to another. And you have similar, vacuum cleaners. I think we have that over here in UK. Yeah, there's that thing. Okay, so there's racing ahead to become the global leader in 5G. So right now it holds a narrow lead over South Korea. Now, South Korea is one of the first countries to bring in 5G. So they are way ahead. This is the self-driving cars. So it has this potential for changing your lifestyle in China in this way, for instance. Well, this is talking about how the base stations need to be built all over the city in order to sort of send these signals, which are really good for short-term distance, not for long-term, long distances rather. And therefore, you need to have these stations all over the city. Yeah, these selectors, so they are selecting certain areas in China, world's first to get 5G in 2019, so they've already got that. By early 20, I think they've got it now. Shanghai and Beijing had coverage of 5G. So you can see these big cities of several million, as big as London or even bigger. These cities have 5G full coverage. By year's end, they're going to have 300 more cities set up to get that network of 5G. So this is the type of equipment they have to install. There it is. Here we are. This is how every day. Now, this little thing is this face recognition technology. Because in China, they've got this technology of face recognition, which they apply for capturing data on all people as to their whereabouts and so on. It may not necessarily be a sinister thing, but it has the potential of really being sinister. So that's the big fear of this face recognition and so on. But we'll have to see, like any technology, we've got to be able to use it intelligently to get the benefits rather than be fearful. Because, if you are fearful of anything, then we won't make progress. Like take this example I keep mentioning. When knife first came about, it was used for chopping onions and what have you. But then it could always be used for sticking it in somebody's, belly. So we need to be able to have regulation to any technology that comes our way. So yeah, about these are the concerns of cybersecurity that have been mentioned and highlighted, and which has resulted in banning of Huawei and then TikTok and web chat and these types of applications. They are being banned at the moment because of these concerns. But I think this is more political than real. Now here we got these robots in travel rush. You know, when lots of people are traveling. Uh, so this 5G is helping to be able to facilitate the travel process of check-in and so on. So here we have these little, okay, what we have here is really check-in, which you can do without interacting with a person. So you can go in and face recognition, you check in, you give your baggage, and you just board. So all over there's face recognition type of features available. This is to assist, this is in a mall of a sort, where this little robot helps patrol for travel rush security and all that. It's patrolling. And what it is collecting and looking at is people's faces and people's behavior. And it's connecting it with a big database, as is shown here in the next one. Yeah, all this is being picked up, and they know if somebody is behaving rowdily or something. Immediately, you know, the local police is informed and they act quickly on that. And they also look at the body language of each of the passengers who are coming in to see if is it normal or abnormal. And if it looks a bit abnormal, they sort of pick them up. So here we have got a database of dangerous behaviors has already been kept. So they check against that database the real-time information that they pick up from these robotic little machines that are wandering around the airport. Yeah, this is police here, that little machine sending the information. So robots love to reduce contact risk. So this is where you are able to check in without having to deal with other people. Reduce contact. The robot can detect if somebody has a fever. So as it's going around, if you're passing by over there, it'll know whether you've got temperature or not. With 5 HD cameras, it can measure the body temperature of up to 10 people at a time. So this little guy here, when it's wandering around, it's picking up, you know, temperatures of people wandering around. And if anybody does show some temperature, he immediately is you know, flagged up. And they look at the temperature by looking at these infrared images. So it gives a warning when it detects a temperature of over 37.3 degrees centigrade. And it also sort of gives an indication as to the passersby with a little loudspeaker saying, put your masks on if you haven't put any masks on. So all this is done sort of automatically in these places here. It can also tell people if people are wearing a mask and reminds people if they are not. You see, so it's got that job, as I said. Now, this is a plan to build the first smart roads. Now, by smart roads, what I mean is that the lights have not only a mechanical thing of timer which says switch on and switch off after certain intervals, but it can respond to certain types of needs as well. They have these cameras and lasers that have been installed on traffic lights, and we'll see what that is for. For instance, here is an ambulance. The collected data will be sent to drivers in milliseconds. So any traffic, for instance, if there is a need for an ambulance to go through the red lights, the lights will change to green and stopping others, and the ambulance can go through. And also drivers, the drivers will get real-time information because of this low latency, because it's real time basically. So when you have driverless cars, this is very important that any movement that comes there, suddenly it needs to be detected so that it can stop or take some action. Okay, the smart system also allows drivers to send signals. This driver is the ambulance one sending signals, so it changes the light to green. See, the wheel can turn the light from red to green. These are the patrol drones. You know, they're patrolling all sorts of areas. Let me see how we're doing for time. Okay, another 5 minutes. I'll rush through that. These drones are equipped with the AI as well. They can decide to pick up information which is of interest to them. So no operators are needed. Of course, drones operate by themselves. This is about Beijing Smart Airport. This airport covers an area of huge. This is facial recognition. Check-ins are done where you don't deal with any human being. This airport is 18 square miles. This is a picture I showed you when I talked to you about the big, humongous city that China is building up in north. It's called Jinjingji. It's combining 3 cities into one, called Jinjingji, and that's the airport for this. Huge airport, and that city, huge city, mega city, is going to be for 130 million people. So you can see that China is thinking ahead because they will have, population growth, and they're planning to cater to it. That's at the airport. Yeah, this is 5G in public transport. This is buses will have 5G. They can, if sitting in these buses, you can stream 4D videos, all these games. So they have high levels of network speed and connectivity. So cities around China are putting 5G onto public transport. Even the locomotives, they have 5G networks on them. And on buses. And then they've got this cashless stores, where if you go in there, the moment you pick up something and put it in your bag, it knows what you have picked up. And when you're about to go and think there, you just pay through your face recognition software. Is automatically deducted when the customer leaves the store. So payments automatically, gets. So there's no one talking to anybody. Just pick up the thing there, and you go out, and then it automatically deducts you for that cost. Pig farming is also using 5G. Now here, what they're doing is they're able to use this facial recognition. They recognize the face of a pig and can detect diseases and track the pigs. So you can see they're employing them in all sorts of areas. Then you've got this China's projection to have close to 4 billion Internet of Things devices, where devices are going to be talking to each other. So I'm going to be stopping here and take some questions now. Okay, here we go. Hi, hello. I'm going to unmute you here, of course. Okay, unmute all. Okay, I've done it here, and if it's still muted, you do it yourself over there. Because,
yeah. Could I ask a question, Shafiq?
Yeah, go ahead, June.
I'm still not quite clear what is meant by latency.
Latency is the delay. When you watch TV, and if a reporter is asking a question to somebody who's on other side of the world, when he asks, the other guy doesn't respond for about a second or two. And then he sort of responds. You've seen that, right, on TV?
Yes, I have.
That is because the signal goes right up to the geocentric satellite, which is 30,000 kilometers away, and then comes back again. And that is the delay that causes the lack of real-time interaction. Whereas
Yes.
this 5G will take away the latency because it's real time. For that real time, there are lots of applications.
Mhm.
And because of latency, you can't do a lot of
So
things.
5G will lower the latency.
Yes, very much
Yes.
so. As far as the local interaction of things are concerned, like the self-drive cars, they're going to be interacting with the lights and with anything that's outside of them. And then the response that they will do to avoid hitting them has to be in real time. There can't be any latency, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome. Hi there, Nimi, go ahead.
Hi, Shafiq. If the machines are doing all the work, what are the people doing? Are they basically spying on each other to keep the machines working?
Well, what machines do is to give you information. How you use this information is a question that we always ask of ourselves. Do we misuse the information, or do we use it for the benefit? So decision making is helped by this machines providing you with very large amounts of data and information. I told you data is just, bits. But when you process that data, you get information. And that information is used for decision making.
Now, we've known for a long time that technology is going to take over, and simple jobs particularly will be lost. So when you've got machines cleaning the roads and shopkeepers are all machines and so on, what work are these people going to do?
Well, that's a very good question. You remember when we became an industrial into the industrial age, the agricultural age had lots of horses.
Mm-hmm.
And there were plenty of people to look after horses, and there were plenty of horses. And they had to clean the streets for all the manure that came about as well. And people said, "Oh, what are we going to do with with all these people who are looking after horses, or for that part of horses?" And when the Industrial Revolution came in, people found the jobs because they started to work in factories, and new types of jobs came about. It's the same sort of things with every industrial revolution that we have, the second, third, and the fourth, that new jobs get created. So if new jobs get created, there is work. But then we need to also accept the fact that not everybody is going to be employed all the time. So we'll have to be able to come up with this UBI. Remember this UBI, Universal Basic Income?
Yeah.
So while the robots are generating the revenues anyway, and governments are collecting funds, they will have to distribute these revenues in such a way that people can have their kitchen monies and what have you. And therefore, what we have to do is to rethink how we are going to sort of see society in the future as to what it will be doing with the time that it has, and not be hard pressed just to make a living for making food ends meet. So that's the job of education. We need to rethink how we're going to use the people's creative powers, how they can maybe in the future come up with new products, maybe. So it's so because if from the caveman days they struggled to just make survival. We have gone past that stage of survival. We are now in the case of saying, okay, we'll have our kitchen money, but what are we going to do with our time? So that is a big conversation we need to have. Yeah, George.
Shafiq, how will global climate affect all this? Because if the Earth is changing,
Yeah, well, I think technology is going to deliver the answer, because if Elon Musk is doing what he can, then these battery and solar power panels and all are coming in a big way, and then the impact of fossil fuels are going to disappear. So they're already starting to disappear, the fossil fuels. So we have technology that is going to be delivering a solution, and I'm very happy about that.
what I was really thinking about was, if you think about, I don't know if you follow that philosophy, but you know, of things like Atlantis and previous civilizations on the Earth. You know, if you go through history,
Yeah, I heard about Atlantis. Yeah.
yeah, but the Greek myths and there's earlier ones as well. And you know, like when they discovered all those cities off the coast of the by the Indus River, you know, off the coast of India, you know, under the sea, you know, and then they excavated more, and then there's another civilization further underneath that. And I'm just wondering what's going to happen if there is a real axis change. I mean, I think we spoke about this last week, I think, or someone did, about the pole shift coming in and the water going up and the earth realigning itself. I think that there's a possibility of that happening in the next 50, 60 years.
Yeah, I feel that if the global warming sort of problem can be solved through technology, which I think there is a solution already with us, and I think it's a matter of having to go that way with the political will. So the rise in sea levels and all that probably will not happen. But if there is some sort of danger that we can see because of wars coming about for some reason, and somebody decides to sort of blow up the earth or whatever, that type of scenario is also being taken care of by this reusable rockets that are plans to go to Mars. So I'm happy about that as well. That we're not going to totally destroy humankind once we have our rockets going to Mars. Yeah, Pam.
I think we're going to need a lot of counsellors and health professionals to help people deal with these changes, because even, you know, in the present time, a lot of people haven't adapted to mobile phones and computers, and I think people will have difficulty adapting. I think it's fantastic, by the way, but many people will have difficulty.
Yeah, I agree with you, because this is a generational problem to begin with. Because I grew up with a generation where we didn't have TV, just a radio, and no smartphones and all that. So our lifestyle was different. But then, you know, when we had these facilities come our way now, we have adapted to it somewhat. But then the young are even further ahead than us in terms of what they can do with these devices. And what we have to do is to see the impact of that on the young, what it means to have a continuous sort of interaction with virtual friends and all over the world, and you know, all that type of thing. There are already, you know, you saw that the digital sort of world's threats that are there. We need to sort of talk about it and to see how we can deal with it. That's why the conversation and awareness is important. And sooner or later, the people who are going to, the decision makers will have to make the decisions. That's why, you know, leadership is so important. And if you have, you know, people like Trump or Boris, we are in for a hard time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Has Germany accepted Huawei, or have they rejected it like America has?
I think EU was going to take a position on it. It's still not very clear whether Germany has outrightly, you know, banned it. I have a feeling that once Trump goes, which hopefully will happen in November, then a lot of countries will become a little bit more freer in their decision making. At the moment, I feel, you know, the threat of American sanctions and so on is making a lot of people, you know, take decisions which are probably not in their own interest.
Is there an alternative to it, though?
Yeah, we have companies like even Nokia and all these AT&T and I think some other companies, USA, they're developing 5G, you know, as much as they can, but they're still far behind.
Yeah, they're far behind.
Yeah. So basically, what it means is that they will do the same thing what Huawei is doing, and they'll collect the same amount of data.
Oh, absolutely.
And of course,
do.
your US government will want that data sooner or later.
Oh, absolutely. And get it.
That's right, and get it. So this is the political game that is being
Oh,
played.
yes. Yeah.
But at the same time, we need to recognize the threats that are there with digital sort of technologies. It gives power. It sort of puts power into the hands of a lot of leadership, and somehow there needs to be some checks and balances to be making sure that this data is not sort of misused. Europe did this GDPR legislation, which makes us give permission for using our data, But then, this thing is such a, whenever the little thing pops up on my app, I always say agree, because, it's such a hassle to go through, 100 pages of whatever they write. It's quite an impossible thing. We need to come up with better sort of safeguards, I think.
Yeah, there's a thing on my. I bought this smart TV from Samsung, and I didn't bother reading through any of the things. I did what you did, but then when it was raining, I think Saturday or yesterday, I was a bit of a loose end, and so I decided to have a look, and it's incredible. It says that they can listen to your smart TV, and I've consented to it because I've tapped agree. You know what you said, and everything is monitored on it. Every single thing is monitored, and they can actually watch me as well. That's the other thing.
Yeah, well, there used to be somebody who says, look, I don't care. The government collects the data on me because I'm not doing anything wrong. So
I'm not doing anything very interesting.
It is extraordinary, though.
Yeah.
It is quite extraordinary.
Well, the first job is to become aware.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we need to then have a conversation. And then maybe some action, perhaps. That's how the process works.
Surely it's quite easy if you are doing anything funny or anything secretive. So you go out of the room, you go to another room and you shut the door.
You
No?
go to the garden.
Or put a towel on your TV.
I'm assuming the television needs to be turned on for this, George.
No, it doesn't.
You're joking.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I think the safe bet is to be able to just have some of those antivirus thing kept up to date and your passwords up to date. If you're able to sort of do that, at least that's the first step in securing your data and security.
Yeah, but that's the trouble, because if I have my passwords on my computer and my phone, I'm not sure that they can get access to all my passwords without me actually knowing it.
Yeah, don't keep it on your computer, your passwords.
I know, but then if you start writing it, and for everything you need a password all the time, it just really doesn't function.
You see this little document, my passwords.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
I don't keep it on my computer.
Me, what I had to do when I started working from home, because I've been working with very confidential papers, doing adoptions and things, working from home. It took a good 10 minutes every single time I tried to work from home. I put on my computer, I had to go through one password. Then to get into other computers, I had to another password. And the final password, it had to change every 6 weeks. So every 6 weeks, you had to put in another password. It constantly changed.
Yeah.
They took no chances.
Well, I'll tell you one way of creating a password, Giselle, which I found to be quite useful, is think of a nursery rhyme, say, for instance, Jack and Jill went up the hill. So you take the first letter of each and make that your password. And it's very easy to remember, Jack and Jill went up the hill. Although you will not remember the mnemonics,
They were getting quite complicated, these passwords, because they're saying, you must have 2 capital letters, you must have 2 funny, types of letters, you must have three
Yeah.
numbers from this to this. They got so complicated. They were like 13, digits or letters long. It was crazy.
Yeah. You don't have to make it too complicated.
When
Just provide the minimal and keep changing it often.
When I was working, I had to change my password every 6 weeks. And I
Me
used
too.
a rude word once and then I forgot it.
Well, think of something you can remember easily. Don't create
Yep.
things which are too complicated.
Yes, but Shafiq, if you've got to keep changing it every 6 weeks, how often are you going to get something memorable every 6 weeks?
Well, supposing you say Jack and Jill went up the hill, then you just change the thing. The day you start off with 1, then go to 2, then go to 3 at the end.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but what happens when you get to number 77? I'd gone on holiday to Egypt, and I went through every single Egyptian god, every single Egyptian city I've been to, every town. I was beginning to run out of things to put in. I went through every single animal I'd ever had, and I've had a lot of animals. It's crazy.
Well, you
also
just have to make a little bit of variations now and then here and there.
But you have to, because you're not supposed to have the same password for
That's right.
everything.
It rejects it if you put the same password in.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
We'll
So
have
if
this
you-
nano thing in our head that will remember them all for us.
Yeah.
Well, that's called a computer, unfortunately.
That's right. Yeah.
But a good advice is change it, periodically, because not everybody is going to be hacked for their password every time.
Mm.
So if you just take the basic precautions, don't keep the password on your computer. Keep it in a little note page. That's useful. Mm.
So what happens to 5G and Huawei and all of this, if, or whatever it is called, if Trump gets in? I'm assuming he will. I think he will.
Well, if he gets in, which I doubt very much.
You're hopeful.
Yeah, well, I think in the American people at the end of the day, I think probably have a little bit of sense, common sense. Anyhow, assuming the unlikely case that he comes back, it's bad news for the world, bad news for America even, and we just hope it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
On that rather sort of optimistic note.
Have you got any more films for us that we should watch, or?
Well, next I might sort of. I'm going to send you a recording of this clip of this
That
talk.
would be great.
I'll see whether I can find something for you to see.
Yeah.
To give me nightmares.
I send these recordings to my grandchildren. They love them.
Yeah, do they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they are all very tech savvy, the young people, and I think it's good that they are, because you can't stop the advances in technology, So
I'm wondering if there will be computer breakers like there was in the revolution. They broke up all the machines, didn't they? But they called the lollards. They came in and broke up all the machines.
I didn't know that.
Yes, in England, in the Industrial Revolution, because they were taking people's...
Oh, I see. Yes.
George will know, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. In fact, it was Queen Elizabeth, wasn't it, who didn't sign the edict for bringing in this spinning machines, because it says it's going to take away the jobs. I think she was the one who delayed.
Luddites.
Luddites, that's it.
Yeah.
Luddites, not lollards, Luddites. Yeah.
Low life.
No, Luddites. Luddite.
All right. Okay.
But I heard today that there's a possibility of our computers all going off.
Oh, no.
What's going to happen then?
Oh, my God.
Well, the world will stop going round.
No, seriously. That the people who run this thing are well, yeah. I mean, let's hope it doesn't happen. but you could be a scenario where you would be actually cut off from going on to these type of things.
Well, one of the discussions that is underway is that the internet, which has been devised with the thought that it has to be fairly sort of robust and also not come under the control of anybody. That is what has been the way forward for internet developers. But now lately China and some other countries want to have more control over internet, and therefore they're coming up with a different type of a network. We'll have to see how far they go with that, because this current network that we have is very robust. It's not possible for one person to shut it down.
Good.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Okay. Shall
might
we?
be next week.
Yeah, we'll call it a day, and thank you very much for
Very much. Thank you.
participating and all the interesting questions you asked. Okay.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.